I always loved to dance, so I ended up missing the last 3 months of my senior year of high school through some sort of mix of who knows what concoction of medications. I ended up getting well enough that I could go to college. Through the first couple of years of college, I realized I just wasn't myself anymore. I had become Crohn's disease instead of being myself. It was like I viewed everything through the filter of Crohn's. It was consuming my life. And finally I figured out that I wasn't dancing anymore. I was just too sick. And I realized that was why I was kind of retreating into myself. So I started dancing again, and I never saw myself as a dancer for a job, ever. I always was like, I'm gonna be a teacher, I'm gonna be a teacher, I'm gonna be a teacher. And I don't know what got into me, but I moved down to Florida and I auditioned and I got the job, and I was really determined to make it work. I was sick of missing out on things because of my Crohn's. Once I was at Disney for a couple of years, I really just took a downward spiral, and my doctor was just kind of like, there's really no other option at this point. You're going to have to consider surgery. And there was a message board I went on, and I asked one question. I said, what's the one thing that you regret giving up because you had your surgery? And everybody said nothing, nothing. I gave up nothing. I gave up being sick and I got my life back. And one person said, I gave up wearing a bikini. That was the only thing. So it was then, there was no question. Honestly, my life now is as close to a normal person's life as I think I've ever had. I do what everybody else does. I work like everybody else. I'm busier than most people. I went back to teaching, and I could never be a teacher when I had Crohn's. It was like, you can't be in the bathroom when you're trying to teach kids, and I'm still dancing too. I'm still coaching dance, and a lot of times I forget I have an ostomy. I really have to think about it. If I wanted to run a marathon, I have no doubt that I could do it. I have no interest in running, so I won't be doing that, but there's no doubt in my mind that I could. I know it was the best thing, and I haven't looked back once.
And not love the outdoors. So whether it was hiking or mountain biking, I have a lot of fond memories growing up doing that. But it was really manageable. You know, the issues I was experiencing, I knew where bathrooms were. You know, I knew what foods to eat. I knew what foods to avoid. It was a little bit of a nuisance, but not too problematic. I met this girl that was beautiful and way out of my league, and decided I need to marry this girl before she realizes what's going on. I did an undergrad and my master's in engineering and just loved it. I studied water treatment. My wife and family will tell you water is my passion. So I felt like a lot of things were just right on the right path. I was actually at that time training for a half marathon and was running and feeling actually really healthy and really strong, and things just went down really quickly. I was having fevers, and the big problem was that bowel movements were becoming so painful that, you know, I wanted to stop eating. Doctor's appointment after doctor's appointment, and no one really knows what's going on. It was a really scary time. I was down about 40 pounds at that point. Couldn't really stand or walk very easily, and I didn't work for about 9 months because I just wasn't able to. And the surgeon, he took one look at me, and his quote was, "You look like you just got out of a bar fight." I just remember thinking, yeah, I'm really thankful that someone sees that, because that's how I felt inside. He immediately hospitalized me. I had kind of scoped into my rectum and colon to see what Crohn's disease had been doing, and it was really bad. He said it was one of the most severe cases he had seen. He said, "Hey, I'd like you to be preparing for what's called an ileostomy." I remember sitting in the hospital bed and for the first time Googling it, and it really scared me. There was a lot of things I began questioning when I was sick. You know, like everyone I'm sure says, you know, why me? You don't expect to be a 26-year-old with a bag of poop hanging off your side, you know? And so one of the first questions I Googled was, can I still mountain bike with an I remember thinking, you know, I have to be able to be outside. You know, what is this going to do to my life, and how's my life going to change? It truly has given me back my life. I cannot think of one thing that I can't do with my ostomy. I remember being able to eat and not be in pain as a result of it. It's been incredible. It really has given me my life back because I'm no longer so dependent on bathrooms and living in fear of my bowels and what's going on. It's actually given me a lot more consistency and confidence back in my life.
Oh, cool picture.
I was born singing and dancing and being in my own creative world, and I was abnormally driven for my age. You know, straight A student. I applied to 17 colleges, and you know, my life was pretty like set out. It was the second night of Passover, and we had a big Seder with 30 people. It was a really nice night. I was just in a lot of pain, and then it went to the next day. So I went to my pediatrician, and the doctor was like, "You're just a little distended, but I think it's just gas, you know, but if you want, you know, take her to the ER for an x-ray." I got out of the car and I collapsed. They had to put me out, and as soon as they cut into me, my stomach burst to the top of the OR from so much pressure. One of the residents said, "Okay, like you have no stomach anymore, and you can't eat or drink anything." And I remember the first time I stood up, like my feet were shaking, and I didn't understand. I was asking her, I was like, why did I lose all like my muscle? It was just the most depressing thing because I was so scared I would never dance again. I just remember looking up at the ceiling a lot and like talking to like God and being like, please, you know, maybe pick some kind of miracle habit. I was determined. I said, I gotta dance again. You know, once the physical therapist gave me those rubber bands, I was doing those every day. My three brothers were so amazing. You know, they would always come and just play games with me and cheer me up. Another shattering thing was I couldn't sing, but Matt, my musician brother, he would bring his guitar. You know, soon I got my voice back. I was just discharged, and the week after, a local theater in the area was having auditions for Oliver. I auditioned, and I'm like, man, that was really good. So then they called me, and they actually gave me the lead in Oliver, which we were all like going crazy on. I don't believe that things happen for a reason. I believe that, you know, you have to make things happen for a reason, and then that's how it turns out. So, you know, starting from doing the show, then starting my own chocolate business, teaching nursing school, writing a play, you know, finally putting together my life story in my one-woman show, and seeing how it reached people and inspired people. So at the end of the day, I just try to tell myself that, you know, this is a blessing. That's why my show is God Listening.
I grew up collecting, you know, toads and frogs and turtles, and I was focused on becoming a vet. So instead the counselor said, "Hey, have you thought about medical school?" I said, "Well, no, I hadn't, but what do I have to do?" And they said, "Take the MedCat." And I was dating a girl at the time, all through college, and I said, "I know where I'm going to be for the next 4 years. Do you want to get married?" And my wife and I started having kids, and became a urologist, a plumber. Everybody needs a good plumber. urology, now 22 years. At the age of 52, I was getting ready to go skiing at Big Sky in Montana. I thought probably ought to get a physical exam. I always preached that to my patients, and so I figured I better follow my own advice. I kind of had my Adam's apple rise up in my throat. I said, it can't be real. I feel fine. Everybody that knew me had me dead and buried pretty fast. Given the fact that I was only 52, they said, you know, we want to throw the book at this cancer, but we're going to have to potentially take your bladder out. When I take care of other patients, one of my favorite things to do, one I think is the most important thing that I do right before surgery is to pray with them. And we give it up to God. From the standpoint of understanding that I'm not in charge. We're going to do something that God's in charge for, and the results are going to be up to Him. Excuse me. Me being a surgeon, giving up my power to another surgeon was very difficult. So we asked the surgeon, do you believe in God? And he told us of his epiphany and said, you're the man. And he was the man. I had my prostate, my bladder removed, and I was replumbed. That's the good part of it, because if my cancer was out to the edge, there was extensive disease, there was some cancer left behind. And I have to tell you that I think my wife bears the biggest brunt. So I think that's the hardest part for me, is to see how my wife's life has changed. I have never asked myself why me. I've been so blessed in my life. It's more like when me. I was always the luckiest hunter. Always shot big deer, shot big elk. I've always been a glass half full or 3/4 full guy. I can't imagine that anything will ever come along that's going to make me think that I'm not blessed. Having an ostomy for a lot of people was something that they would look badly upon. For me, it was part of my life-saving adventure.
Wow.
Taylor. Started at age 2.5 years old. When I was diagnosed with a very rare form of cancer, it's called rhabdomyosarcoma. A result of the cancer, 2 ostomies. And that's where it all started. I just wanted to be like everybody else. I just wanted to be like the rest of the kids. Grow up, to play with my friends, go to school, you know, just to be normal. But that didn't happen. You know, you grow up, you want to have a boyfriend, you want to have a relationship. And for a while, I thought that nobody would want me. I was sad a lot, I was depressed a lot. Not even my family knew. Not even my family knew. Often I said, why me? Why me? I hid my feelings. I hid my feelings of how I felt about it, how I felt about my sickness, how I felt about, my ostomies. So I hid that. But what I did was I tried to camouflage it with my pretty lips. Yeah. So you put on a mask because you want to cover up how you feel inside. And a lot of people really can't believe I've been modeling with 2 ostomies. They're like, well, how do you do it? I can't tell, that's not one of the opinions, but when you have a passion for something, you find a way to make it happen. So I found a way to make it happen. My turning point was a little bit later. I had a mentor in my life. She taught me how to journal. I started writing everything I ever felt. about my sickness, about the why me, about my self-esteem. I just like writing and crying, and it became very therapeutic for me. It was like it started like my healing. And I believe that my story is not for me anymore. Whatever their sickness may be, when they read that story, they're inspired, they're encouraged. So I believe now that that was the purpose of me going through what I went through. Even when it started at 2 1/2, it was a purpose for me. My life verse is Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans that I have for you, thoughts of hope and a good future. And it's a good future. I was saying that, why me? But when you grow to understand that there's a purpose, there's a reason of that why me, it took a while for me to understand that. But now I do understand. So I say, why not me? Why not?
Inspirational. 30 nurses here tonight. We have over 550. Thank you for flying in early, for taking our message and returning it home, but really thank you for allowing us to kick off your convention. We hope you have a great week, but we hope this helps you get started off on the right foot. I have to be honest, I sit here and I'm sure I'm like the rest of you. I watch those stories and I am blown away at the power of the human spirit. What with a little direction and a little guidance and a lot of hope, what people can overcome. It's stunning to me. The recipients this year are wonderful examples, but they're just 5. 5,000. All of the patients that you deal with ultimately could be standing here. So we ask you to take this message back to your hospitals, to your patients, and tell them they can do it also. And if they don't believe it, go to greatcomebacks.com and watch some of these stories. It's interesting, I was sitting next to Mark Valentine, the president of Comback, and was reflecting on 29 years. You guys, this is 29 years of great comebacks.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit like the beaver talking to the squirrel, looking at Hoover Dam, going, no, I didn't build it, but it was based on an idea I had. The idea that I had 29 years ago was built by all of you, by the folks at Comback who are committed to providing the hope and inspiration and education to patients. And for that, I want to thank you. I want to start, Mark, thank you very much for what you're doing for Comback. Douglas, for what you're doing on the international side. I want to thank Bo. Bo, you're just a wonderful example of what it's like. Walter, you touched our hearts when we first read your story, and once we got to know you, and Lala, we just fell in love with you, and we just so appreciate your helping tonight as well. A lot goes into tonight. You all show up and the venue is magnificent, and the food and the drink and the camaraderie and the layout is extraordinary. But a lot of people make this happen that you'll never meet. So just allow me 1 minute to say Kay and Elizabeth and Honey and the video crew. That we're here at the Wild Horse. This is a historical place. So does anybody here like country western music?
Yeah.
If you like country western music, if you name an artist, I will guarantee that he played here. All right? So think of your greatest artist. But let me tell you a story about a guy named Jason Aldean. Anybody ever heard of Jason Aldean? Yeah, Jason Aldean's pretty good. Do you know Jason's story?
No.
Here's Jason's story, not unlike our great comebacks winners. Jason Aldean spent 10 years toiling in the honky-tonks on Broadway and 2nd Avenue, playing whatever he could, trying to make a living as a country western music singer. On the night he had decided to give up, he played this venue, the Wild Horse Hotel, and he shared his heart. He said, I've tried for 10 years, I love this, but I cannot do this anymore. I'm returning home tomorrow. This is my last concert. And he sang his heart out. And someone in the audience said, I'm going to manage this man. And signed him to a contract. And the rest is what we know of Jason Aldean. Right here in the Wild Horse Hotel. Wild Horse. You guys, this is a special place, this is a special time. We met some incredible winners, some incredible stories, none of whom would have been possible without the initial inspiration and encouragement and guidance for you. So as you leave tonight, as you walk these streets, as you go tomorrow and listen on all of your different meetings, remember that what you're doing fundamentally changes lives.
Was it something you thought you would go through? Not the way you thought your life would be. You tried your best to hide the fears inside of you. Find strength to chase your dreams.
When the clouds rolled in, you found the sun, showed the world that you weren't done. You made the greatest comeback. All right. Like a warrior in the fight. Through the darkest moments you found the faith to believe and shine your light. You climbed the mountain in front of you, came out on the other side, and every day you're showing the world that you made the greatest comeback. Whoa,
Now you know that every day is another chance to take a breath and dare to live. With every step you understand the life's a dance, so give it all that you can give.
keep reaching high and don't back down. Others need to see the hope you found. 'Cause you made the greatest comeback. Like a warrior in the fight. Through the darkest moments you found the faith to believe and shine your light. You climbed the mountain in front of you, came out on the other side, and every day you're showing the world that you made the greatest comeback. Whoa, yes, you made the greatest comeback. To those who walked us through and gave us back our lives, you'll always be a part of us, and you're the reason why we made the greatest comeback. Like warriors in the fight. Through the darkest moments we found the faith to believe and shine our light.
show the world you're gonna dare to live, so dare to live.
So my makeup is going to be ruined now. I first want to give honor where I always do. I want to give honor to God because without Him I will be nothing, but with Him all things are possible. Thank you so much. I know I'm going to step out of the ordinary when I do this, but I want, can everyone please stand for Rolf, please? Thank you so much. What Rolf has done with the great comebacks is, what he does is he plants seeds. And we are the recipients of these seeds. And there's just more and more and more seeds that are telling their story. And I was one that was ashamed of my story. But I discovered that God gave me this story so that I may spread my story. I will encourage others to tell their story and to tell their story. And when you plant seeds, you need someone to come along to water that seed. And that's the WOCN nurses. So what they do is they water the seed so that we may grow and so that they can fix our broken branches, whatever our sickness may be, and dealing with having ostomy. So thank you so much for watering us and allowing us to blossom and to bloom and to grow in spite of our sicknesses and our ostomies. We thank you so much for caring. We thank you for your dedication. We thank you for your commitment. You all have your own family, but we thank you for coming into our family. As we talked last night about the community, coming into our community, we thank you so very much. Thank you, Comback, for just being there for us. Thank you for this whole event. Thank you so much, Mr. Valentine. Oh my gosh. I do great when the camera is clicking and I'm behind the camera when I'm modeling. I don't have to talk. I just look pretty and pose. I want to thank my support, my family. I want to thank my brothers and my sisters. I want to thank my mom, who is my other rock, who, when I was a teenager, told me to tell my story, and I couldn't figure out why. She kept telling me to tell my story, so now I know why, many, many years later, but I understand why I needed to tell my story. So I'm no longer ashamed of my story. I tell it and I tell it and I tell it, that it may touch someone, that it may encourage someone, that it may enrich someone's life. So I thank my family. Again, I thank you all so very much. It's been a journey for me, and a journey that I didn't anticipate. But it's a journey that I wouldn't change because it has made me strong. It has made me the woman that I am today. And I thank God for my mom birthing and my dad birthing a miracle. So I thank God, and I thank you all so very much. I thank my best friend for coming along with me today. Thank you so much. are very, very grateful. We are very, very thankful.
You catch us in your tender arms when we are so vulnerable, when we are so beaten, when we're so scared, when we have no hope.
And if it hadn't been for you all, where would we be?
You see something in us that we don't see in ourselves. I know we're terrible patients most of the time. But if you could see the stories that I see, the people that have flown from your nest and returned what they love to do because you were there and launched them, it would make it easier for you to do your job. We hope that great comebacks will last weekend.
You guys rocked our lives, and we're so grateful. I thank you.
Thank you.